All right, welcome to another episode of Taco and Tech. I am your host, Jeff Brunson. What are we going to talk about today? We are tacoing our Week 5 tasty picks. I've got Christian here, and so we're going to cover the Big 12, the new Big 12, and then a few notable games here. So, Christian, it's been a few weeks since you've been on, and go ahead and introduce yourself, if you would.
Absolutely, Hefe. It's a pleasure to be back. I know I was on the inaugural episode representing our show, Red Shirt Rebels podcast, covering all things Texas Tech athletics. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Red Shirt Rebels, and our personals will be on there as well. So it's good to be back, and can't wait to make some picks here with you.
All right, let's do it. And like I mentioned kind of in the pre-show here, I've told you, I am, I guess I can say I'm undefeated. So nobody's taking me down yet. We have tied 1 week here, but I have, I wouldn't say dominated. All my wins have been one game, but that's good enough for a win, right? That's all you need. So we'll start with the non-conference here, just the notable games, basically the games between ranked opponents that are not involving the Big 12. So we'll start with Wake Forest at Florida State. Florida State 7-point favorite. What you got?
This is a tough game. Both these teams are really good. I know Wake Forest definitely had more preseason hype than Florida State did, but Florida State is 4-0 here. This is a nice ACC game. I think it's national TV, 2:30 slot on ABC. The game is in Tallahassee. I know there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going on with Hurricane Ian in Florida. I don't know how that's going to affect this game or not. So that definitely throws us a curveball here. But I'm going to go with the home team here. I'm going to go with Florida State, and I think the line's at 7 favoring Florida State. I'm going to go Wake Forest covers, but Florida State wins. That's what I'm thinking here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This is definitely a tough game. I thought Wake Forest. I don't know why I threw an M in there. Wake Forest impressed me last week. Versus Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Clemson would handle them better than they did. Maybe that's more of an indication of Clemson than Wake Forest, maybe. But at this point, you have to kind of give Clemson the benefit of the doubt, until we get further in the season and see more here. And so it's a toss up for me. I think, with the Hurricane, is the game even going to be played in Tallahassee or not? I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the most recent traction of the direction of the Hurricane, but I think I'm gonna go the opposite. I think I'm gonna go Wake Forest. I think I'll take them and see if the Demon Deacons can pull off the upset. I forgot what's the. Let me look at the ranking real quick. Is Wake Forest?
Yeah, the rank 22.
Okay, 22, 23.
Yep.
So maybe that's the reason. One of the reasons it was tough. So I will. Obviously, Wake Forest to not only cover but to win there. So we'll see. As our first disagreement, that usually happens later. We'll do this now. Okay, next game we got Kentucky at Ole Miss. Let me pull it up real quick. Ole Miss, I've got as a 7-point favorite at the moment. What you got?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is another crazy SEC game. There's a lot of storylines going into this. You got Will Levis at Kentucky, who a lot of people are talking about as being one of the top quarterback prospects in this upcoming NFL draft. And you have Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, and then Ole Miss can just really run the football. Interesting story with Lane Kiffin calling out his fans, saying that they look like a high school crowd when they're running out of the tunnel, and it's hard to get juiced up for that. You have a top 10 Kentucky team rolling into Oxford here, 4-0, undefeated, ranked number 7. Ole Miss is also 4-0, ranked at 14. I'm going to go with the home team here, and I think they cover. I don't think Kentucky is as good as people think. They struggled last week against a MAC team and NIU, barely squeaking out of there with a 1-score win. So I think Ole Miss, the way they run the football with Zach Evans, and I just think they're going to take the win here and cover at home.
So I will also agree in this case, even though I'm still bitter, with the played Tech. I forget what year, I think Cliff was still the coach
Yeah.
at the time, but they had like 3 stud receivers. We just could not cover, and they just dominated Texas Tech, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But I will go ahead and push those feelings aside and and pick Ole Miss as well in that one. All right, we got NC State at Clemson. So here comes Clemson here. We trust them again. But so Clemson is a 6.5 point favorite. What you got?
Yeah, I think this really is the best game of the weekend here. You got College Game Day in Clemson for this one. You got 5 versus 10 undefeated ACC matchup. This has huge implications in that conference. Obviously, as Red Raider fans, we know how that NC State game went, and that is our 1 loss of the year. It'd be great to see them keep winning. And Clemson, they've got some questions at the quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei. I think I said that correctly. I'm not sure. It's definitely tough to pronounce. So I hope I was at least close. But they've got the freshman breathing down his neck and Cade Klubnik. I think this is the last game that DJ gets to start in as a Clemson Tiger. And for that reason, I think NC State wins that game and they ultimately get him benched, and Cade will take over the rest of the season for Clemson. So obviously NC State will cover if they win this game, and that's what I'm going with.
Oh, very, very interesting. I think I think I'm with you. Maybe more on the this maybe an emotional pick for kind of what you mentioned that you kind of want NC State to keep winning. It just
got to keep winning.
More validates the loss, so to speak. And then Clemson hasn't really looked that impressive, at least not yet. And even last year, they didn't look super impressive. They did. I think they won 10 games last year. So it's kind of hard to be too critical from the outside looking in. But just with the Clemson that we've seen, Trevor Lawrence and before, they were pretty dominant, and then they haven't been that way since. Yet. And so I will also take NC State to pull out the win. And obviously that would make them cover the point spread if that's your way of thinking. All right. Last game we have between ranked teams, at least that's not in the Big 12 schedule, is Alabama going to Fayetteville at Arkansas. We got Alabama as 17-point favorites. What you got?
Here, I'm going to roll with the Tide. I think this Arkansas team, I think they're pretty overrated in my opinion. I think they're a pretty flawed team. I mean, they're a decent team. They could win 7, maybe even 8 games. But they're good in the trenches. They just can't throw the ball, and they can't cover on the back end of their defense. This is an Alabama team that should be able to push the ball down the field. You have the Heisman winner and Bryce Young. I know they've kind of struggled at times. They don't look as dominant as we might have expected them. But I think Nick Saban's going to have these guys to want to send a message here. So I think it's not even going to be close. I think Bama covers pretty easily, and they just roll the Tide right through Fayetteville.
All right. I am also taking Alabama to win. I'm going to take Arkansas to cover. I'm going to say they're going to be scrappy enough where they don't get beat by 17 here. Tough loss against A&M.
Very tough.
Fumble near the end. That was, or whenever it was. I feel like it was the end, but maybe it wasn't at the end of the game. But it felt like it was. And just a brutal way. You have to wonder how they're going to, if they can recover. And with Alabama coming in, maybe it's a little easier than what I'm projecting here. That's a big game. If it were Texas, it'd be their Super Bowl, right? So
yep.
We'll see if Arkansas. So I don't think Arkansas has the horses to win the game, but I think they'll be scrappy enough to where they can keep it close enough to where Alabama does not win by 17. And then we saw, last time Alabama traveled, they went to Texas. The crowd obviously affected them. So we'll see if they've had time to fix that or not. I'm going to say not fully. So I think they will have maybe more penalties than what we're accustomed to seeing from a Nick Saban team. So I will choose Bama, but Arkansas to keep it relatively close. Okay, we'll shift now to the new Big 12 here, just for fun. We got, I believe this is a Thursday night game here. So we got Utah State at BYU. BYU with a 24.5-point favorite. Should be a big win for the former Matt Wells coach team.
Yeah, I was definitely going to give a shout out to Matt Wells there. So I think he's Utah State alum as well. But I mean, this one, BYU is going to win this game. It'll be a colossal upset if they don't. Utah State is 1-3. They have not had a good start to this year at all. They've even lost to some FCS team, Weber State. So they're just not very good. But given that this is just one of those weird in-state rivalry games on the Thursday, I'm going to pick Utah State to cover. I still think it's going to be a multiple score win by BYU. But I do think Utah State will kind of get up for this. And there might be some emotions there just being the in-state rivalry, but that's the only reason I'm picking Utah State to cover here. But BYU's getting the win.
All right, fair enough. I say BYU wins. They win convincingly, and they do cover the 24.5 points. I don't want to spend too much time on this game, but it should be a fun one to at least tune into, even if you don't watch the whole game. That'll be tomorrow. This is Wednesday when we're recording this, but that game is tomorrow. All right, we got Tulane at Houston. So Tulane beat Texas Tech next game or next opponent, Kansas State, but then they turn around and lost to, and I forget.
Southern Miss.
Yeah, Southern Miss here. So I don't know which Tulane we're going to get, but I also don't know which Houston we're going to get either. So what you got?
Yeah, this is a weird game, weird American Conference game. Both these teams have been very hot and very cold at times. Houston's been a little more cold. But I like me some Dana Holgerson, and I think Tank Dell and Clayton Tune, I think they'll get it together here. So I'm going to go with the home team and go Cougs.
Interesting.
And I think they'll cover. Spreads 2.5 favored Houston.
Yeah, 2.5. So yeah. It's a field goal essentially.
Yeah.
They're given a half point, so there's no push. But we've got, I think I'm going to go with Tulane, actually. I feel like there's dysfunction in this Houston team. I don't know. Now, maybe I'm just wrong but they had a hard game against Rice. Mm-hmm. Rice hasn't been a traditional power by any means. And so I don't know if they've, like Texas Tech, kind of turned around a corner this year or not. I don't watch Rice games, so I don't seek them out. But I'm going to say that Tulane, brings back that fight against Kansas State. Some of that was Kansas State's fault. We understand that. But I'm going to say, and then Houston lost, their stud defensive end Parrish for the end of the rest of the year. He was an absolute nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to say that Tulane squeaks it out, pulls out a win, and continues the Houston dysfunction. So we'll differ there, but that's okay. We'll see what happens. All right, we got next one, Cincinnati at Tulsa. Cincinnati 9.5-point favorites. What you got?
I'm taking future Big 12 member Cincinnati here. Tulsa's 2-2, Cincinnati's 3-1. Their one loss was on the road in the season opener against Arkansas, and I watched most of that game, and in my opinion, they outplayed Arkansas. I think just had poor quarterback play that day, and that was the difference and why they lost. And the Cincinnati team is very good. Coach Fickle is doing amazing things up there in Cincinnati. I take them to win and take them to cover.
All right. Likewise, I don't want to spend too much time. I feel like this should be an easy win for Cincinnati. Cincinnati may not be. I haven't looked at their full schedule, but they shouldn't be too tested the rest of the season. They are as close to a Big 12 team ready as probably of any that are coming in. So I think they will take care of business against Tulsa, even on the road. All right, next game, we got SMU at UCF. UCF maybe a little bit underwhelming this year, with at least with their expectations, but UCF is a 3-point favorite. What you got?
Yeah, so this game is going to be another one of those weird ones. Both these teams have looked impressive at times. SMU, their only two losses coming close to both Maryland and TCU, who are looking like very quality Power 5 teams. And you have UCF, whose one loss is to Louisville. So this should be a very close game. Another hurricane-impacted potential game in Florida. So that just only adds some weirdness to it. But I'm going to go with the home team here. And the line's at 3 favoring UCF, so I'm going to take them to cover.
All right. I'm going to take the Texas team. So I'm going to say that SMU will, and wherever they play, they're in Orlando. I think they played TCU. Excuse me, fairly close. Now they got some late scores. I understand that, but they, and of course TCU and SMU is always kind of a close game, regardless of a record, just because of I think the closeness of the teams. But I'm going to stick with the Mustangs and say that they go into the bounce house, assuming it's played, and kind of shock. I don't want to say shock the world. That's probably too hard. They're gonna. I'll say SMU pulls out the upset victory. I'll put it that way. How about that?
There you go.
All right, moving to the Big 12, getting to the nitty gritty here, things that we know probably a little bit more about. First game on the docket, we got Iowa State traveling to Lawrence, playing your undefeated 4-0 Kansas Jayhawks football team. What you got?
Yeah, see, I don't think any of us expected Kansas to be 4-0 at this point. I know a lot of us expected them to be better this year, which isn't really saying much about Kansas because you can't really get any worse than what they've been. But they've been highly impressive. The way they've been able to just move the football. They have a top 3 offense right now in college football. Just the way they've been playing, undefeated. Iowa State coming off a tough loss against Baylor. Obviously Kansas, they're feeling themselves right now. I mean, they're feeling really good. But I'm going to go with Cyclone Larry, our guy up in Ames, and I'm going to go with the Cyclones here of Iowa State. I think they kind of end this magical run that Kansas has had to start out the year. I do think it's going to be a close game down to the wire. But I'm going to go take Iowa State to cover. It's favored 3 in Iowa State's favor, so I'll take Iowa State to win in the cover.
All right, I am the same. And if you remember, I believe I said in our preview that Kansas would at least flirt with bowl eligibility, and they are absolutely doing that.
Oh, for sure.
They probably need to win either this game or the game against TCU for bowl eligibility. That gives them one more win needed for the rest of the season. I think reality is about to set in a little bit. They're playing tougher defenses. Kansas defense is not that good. Their offense is fantastic. Daniels is fantastic. Their offense is humming. But you can't outscore everybody. Texas Tech fans know that for sure. So I'm going to say they will no longer be undefeated. This is the first time I've actually picked them. I've actually picked them to win every time. So far I've been right. So we'll see what happens here. I think Iowa State has a good enough defense to at least slow them down, and then that they will figure out the Kansas defense enough
Yeah.
to score, because Iowa State is not necessarily an offensive juggernaut themselves, but I think just the disparity in defenses will help Iowa State win out. So I'm going to agree with you there, as well as cover. So same thing. Okay, we'll go to Fort Worth. We got Oklahoma going to TCU after their maybe surprising loss to Kansas State. What you got?
Very surprising loss. This Oklahoma Sooners team, obviously they had a massive disappointment last weekend, which I think all of us really love to see. You have that one fan yelling at the K-State team that Lincoln Riley wasn't there to save them anymore, and they did the exact same thing that Lincoln always did K-State, which was take a surprise loss early in the year to them. But OU is not going to lose the back-to-back Big 12 purple teams. I think they're going to come in with a vengeance. I still think they're the best team in this conference. This conference is obviously very deep, no easy outs here, but I think OU is just going to be on a mission here, and I don't think they're going to have 2 bad weeks in a row. I think they win pretty convincingly against TCU and cover.
We are on the same page. I am not sold on TCU by any means. I'm not sure. They lost Gary Patterson. I don't know if they've played. SMU might have been the toughest team they played so far.
Yeah, easily the toughest team,
if I remember. So definitely wasn't Colorado.
No, they're the worst Power 5 team there is.
Yeah, so I mean, Colorado, Georgia Tech are trying to fight that battle of worst. And so I'm going to say reality checks for TCU is coming. They will also, and they're undefeated as well. So, so they're going to come in and take their first loss, the Horned Frogs, and the Spike Dykes honeymoon. That's what I'm trying to say. Is coming to an end, and Oklahoma will win by at least a touchdown, so they'll cover the 6.5. So we are agreed. All right, and then the other team that lost last week head to the SEC. We got West Virginia at Texas. Texas is a 9.5-point favorite. What you got?
Yeah, so West Virginia in the first 2 weeks, it was looking like they were just going to have just an awful year, but they had a very convincing win last week against Virginia Tech. They seemed to kind of find something. They're probably still the worst team in this conference, though, even though they're not an easy out. Texas, it'll be interesting. We don't know if this will be the game where Quinn Ewers comes back or not, but Hudson Card, he's been getting dragged by Texas fans on Twitter. I don't really know why, because he's played really well. I guess he's the backup, and they got to blame somebody besides themselves for them losing. So got to go after the backup quarterback, I guess. But I think Card has played exceptionally well. I don't think Bijan Robinson is going to fumble again all year. I'm going to take the home team, unfortunately, to win this game and cover. As funny as it would be for them to lose this game, and if they do, Sark is going to be in some deep water if they lose this game, but I think they win pretty easily.
Oh, he may be fired if they lose this game.
It'd be bad.
They'll pull out the old Texas Tech playbook, fire their coach mid-season if that happens. So we'll see. I will be rooting for West Virginia. I'll be rooting for Graham Harrell, but I do agree with you that Texas will, they will play angry. Maybe they should have been playing angry all along. I don't know. Maybe Texas Tech should have been their Super Bowl. But I will unfortunately agree. I will be rooting to be wrong, but I will also take Texas to win and cover. So they'll win by essentially 10 or more down there in Austin. All right. And then we got a pretty big game, a repeat of the Big 12 championship. We got Oklahoma State going to Waco this time. What you got?
Yeah, both these teams are really good. They're definitely in the top half of this conference. This game has huge implications on what we're going to see going forward and who might be playing in Jerry World in December. It's probably going to come back to this game and what happens here. But I like that Orange team. I think Spencer Sanders has been playing very well, and Shapen hasn't looked as good. And I just think this Oklahoma State team, and I think them and OU are the best teams in this conference. And I think it's looking that way. And I'm going to take OSU to win in the road.
All right. I'm going to take Baylor. I'm going to say Baylor wins again. Part of this is my heart, just because I don't know. We don't really know what Oklahoma State is yet. They haven't been tested. They were off last week. They haven't played anybody that has challenged them. So you have to wonder where Baylor has played teams that have challenged them, twice. BYU, and which is weird. BYU, they were without two of their stud receivers.
Yeah.
And Baylor couldn't put them away. So then you kind of wonder, is Baylor any good? But then they looked really good last week. And then Oklahoma State just, they were off, so we don't know. There's a lot of teams you don't know quite know too early, but sure. I'm going to go with Baylor, and I don't want to see an all Oklahoma Big 12 championship. So I need Oklahoma State to be pushed down a little bit, maybe. And then, which Oklahoma may not even make it either. I'm not as high on Oklahoma as you are. So we'll see. I thought they would take a step back. And take a step back is, we're talking third or fourth. We're not talking a Texas
last in the conference. Yeah.
Yes, I'm just saying they might. They're not going to dominate. And they lost. They've already lost already. So far, we'll see. But then that they could go undefeated the rest of the way, and then I was wrong. So I'm not going to count my chickens yet. So I will disagree, and I will root. Well, I'm not going to root for Baylor. But I will pick them to win this game. All right, and here we go. Our last game on the docket is the hometown team. We got Texas Tech headed to the Little Apple in Manhattan, Kansas, to take on Kansas State, your 25th ranked Kansas State Wildcats. Both teams are having similar seasons, with 2 wins and then losses, and then they both beat the teams that are leaving for the SEC. So it's kind of neat. That was a fun weekend for both fan bases. The fan bases have kind of become Twitter friends, sort of, if that even makes sense. And so I tell you what, before you make your pick, let's just go ahead and not really a key to the game, but so if Texas Tech wins, what happened, and if Texas Tech loses, what happened?
Yeah, so my answer to that is going to be pretty simple, and the answer to both of those questions, I guess my answer is going to answer both of those questions, and I'm just going to say Adrian Martinez. Which one are we going to get? Are we going to get the Adrian Martinez of last week, who looked like the best quarterback in college football, or are we going to get Adrian Martinez against Tulane, who just can't hold on to the football and can't move it at all? So that's really the X factor here. Which Adrian Martinez are we going to get?
So I agree. I'll put it this way. I'll say if Texas Tech wins, it means that Donovan Smith handled the Kansas State defense, which is really, really good.
Yeah, very good.
Better than Adrian Martinez handled the Texas Tech, almost said ours, but Texas Tech defense. And then likewise, so if Texas Tech loses, well, then the opposite happened. Mm-hmm. Adrian Martinez handled Texas Tech defense better than Donovan Smith handled K-State. So that's, I think, is really the key to the game. So with that being said, what you got? Who are you taking?
Before the season, I projected a Texas Tech loss here on the road in Manhattan. This K-State team preseason was looking very strong, and then a lot of that strength seemed to disappear in that Tulane game, and they lost a game they definitely shouldn't have lost. But then they shocked the world last week and beat OU in Norman, who was looking like absolute world beaters before they came in. So this is going to be a crazy game. Obviously, both these teams are coming off the season highlight wins. These are going to be each of our programs' two favorite wins of the season. I don't know how you can beat either of those games when you have Texas Tech getting the monkey off their back, pun intended, of Texas, and then you have K-State beating Oklahoma on the road, beating their former alumni and Brent Venables. Kansas State can really run the football. You've got Deuce Vaughn, who, if Bijan Robinson wasn't in the conference, Deuce Vaughn would be the best player in the Big 12. This team is great. Adrian Martinez, we've seen him have stinkers. We've seen him have great games. So we just don't really know what we're going to get. And then Donovan Smith, we can say similar things about. He was not good in the NC State game. He was not good against Oklahoma State last year. But in other games, he's just looked absolutely incredible, including last week where he didn't turn the ball over. He took care of the football, and he led us in some great drives and converted on key fourth downs. So I expect Joey to be aggressive again. But as a Texas Tech fan, I can't pick against our home team. And I mean the Red Raiders. So I'm picking us to win at the 11 a.m. ESPN Plus slot in Manhattan, Kansas. Still really dumb that we have that TV slot there. Like, come on, guys, we can definitely do much better than that. But yeah, I take Texas Tech to win and go 4-1 to start the year.
All right, I like it. I like it. Yeah, you have to wonder if, because Coach Kleiman picked that time slot, and so you wonder if that's gonna if that might backfire. That time slot generally is better for the away team. It helps them be more on schedule than a later game. So I thought that was weird. If that game was here, there's absolutely we'd be playing a night game. So we'll see. But I am unabashedly a Texas Tech homer. I don't care. It is what it is. I will not pick against them, regardless. For future foreshadowing, if you ever want to pick, Texas Tech can and will win this game, and obviously, but even if I thought Kansas State was going to win, I would lean toward betting that Texas Tech would cover. I think the 8 points is pretty big. I think maybe a little bit. You never know what's going to happen in a game. If Tech has some turnovers and they convert touchdowns, well, then obviously, it'd be easy to cover the 8-point game. But just looking at the teams, they're actually very similar, different styles, but similar with their Kansas State's very strong on the defensive front. Texas Tech's maybe a little surprised, but so is Texas Tech. It's been a very nice surprise. They had questions on their linebackers coming in. We had questions on ours, but I think both have played very well. I'm not sure about the secondary, but our secondary is definitely, I thought that was a potential strength, and it has somewhat played out that way. Malik Dunlap has been amazing. Been absolutely fantastic. Pearson has been, he had 2 or 3 interceptions already. Seems to be around the ball a lot. So shout out to Reggie Pearson. And so I will also take Texas Tech. I took Texas Tech last week. They proved me right. So I will take Texas Tech again and look for the same result. Well, there we go. There's our picks. We will see how we how we do. Christian, thank you again very much for joining and doing this with me.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. Do you have anything parting shots before we head on out?
Thanks for having me, Hefe. It's always a pleasure getting to be on Taco and Tech and hanging out with you here. But yeah, this week has definitely been a much different interaction with the opposing fan base on Twitter as opposed to last week. So it's been a nice surprise. So shout out K-State. We love our fan alliance with you. It's going to be a fun game. Can't wait to watch us play in Manhattan. And let's go Red Raiders. Let's get that dub. Go 4-1 to start the year.
There you go. Yeah, it'll be fun to get past this game, and then we can just kind of root for each other again. So that is for sure. All right. Appreciate it again. We will sign off and guns up and wreck them.